everybody, welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I have sitting in front of you, I have a Coleman Model 550B completely disassembled. Now I want to go through the assembly and show you how to put this stove together once you've torn it all apart. Okay, we can start by installing our stem for our pump inside this hole. You'll notice again down in the middle, let me grab my flashlight here. Down inside you can see there's a hole in the center of that flathead screwdriver. I'm going to just put that right down. See how I'm like an arrow? It hit the bullseye. From there I'm just going to slowly tighten this with my fingers. Now I'm going to take my pump, make sure everything's nice and clean, put a drop or two of oil on the top, on the cup here, and run this around that stem. The pump will move freely. Okay, I want to make sure that the pump's moving freely. So I'm turning this counterclockwise, and I'm just kind of checking the pump. Everything's nice and light, and I'm going to also put a couple more drops of oil inside. About 2 or 3 drops, not too much. From here, I'm going to take this plastic collar, and there's some little grooves here that correspond to this notch. So I'm just going to kind of put that into the corresponding notch there, flush, and then with my fingers I'm going to turn it until this notch moves into that key, into place there. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of check this pump. Make sure that it's not closed like this. I mean, if it does, it's still going to be fine. But another thing I want to mention is this little hole that says oil. I always like to put that to the top. Some people like it on the bottom. It doesn't really matter. And I'm also going to put another drop or two in that hole. 1, 2, something like that. Nothing too crazy. Wipe the excess off. And our pump, I turned it clockwise and I locked it. From here our pump is good to go. It's time to work on that valve assembly. Little rag here. And I'm just going to go in and out just very briefly, and I want to make sure that I have some good clean threads. So I'm just kind of threading this little rag in and out. Doesn't have to be crazy or anything like that, but I just want to try to remove any kind of debris that might have been in there. Look at that. I got quite a bit out of there. Okay, first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that these threads on everything are clean. So I'm just going to kind of grab this thing inside of a rag, and I'm just going to kind of twist it counterclockwise, and I'm just kind of cleaning the threads out. See that? All that stuff that came off on my rag. I want to try to make this as clean as possible. This part, not anything special do I need to do, although to protect the O-ring, if you have any Vaseline, you could put Vaseline on that O-ring, or in my case I'm going to put just a drop of 3-in-1 oil. There we go, 1 little drop, and if you put too much it ain't going to hurt it because the excess will drip off. You can see that this has a flat portion on it. Okay, you see that flat portion? What we need to do is we need to put that flat portion facing the outside. See, there's a hole right there that we're looking at. We need that flat portion facing the outside. So we're just going to lay that baby in there just like so. Now if you look inside, you see that flat portion. So we'll set that down for a second. Let's lubricate these 2 O-rings. Put a drop on each. Now remember that flat portion, this little pin is going to drop down into that flat portion. See that flat one down there? We're just going to drop this baby in until we find that. So you might need to turn it a little in one direction or the other to try to find that flat portion. So I'm just kind of turning it around until I find it. I think I have it. Nope. So just keep pushing and turning. There we go. You'll know when you've got it because you'll feel it go in that thing. and then when you spin, there we go. You see this coming up and down? That means we're there. From here we can install our retaining clip, and it's going to go like this, right into place. Now we can put our knob on, and again you want to note that there's a flat portion here, and that flat portion corresponds to the pump. Okay, so you have everything looking good. Now we have a small screw, number 1 Phillips. We're going to take a little bit of nail polish. What this is going to do is going to be like a light thread locker. It's going to keep that screw from coming out. So maybe if your stove was riding in the back of an ATV or something, you don't want that screw getting loose and rattling out. So there we go. Put that baby in. Just twist it down and lock it. Doesn't have to be gorilla tight or nothing. All we're doing is holding a plastic knob on, okay? Don't want to be all crazy about it. And there we go. Things are looking good. Let's put another drop of oil down in there. 1. Let's work it in and out. Go to the bottom, put a drop of oil. Work it all the way down. Okay, now we want to leave this piston down like so. So we are in the low position. From here, we're going to take this portion of our pump. I don't know why I keep saying pump. Valve assembly. And I'm going to put some mild fingernail polish around those threads. Don't let the fingernail polish get inside this area. Make sure that it stays on the threads. Okay, you don't want to be getting fingernail polish everywhere, and then you'll be gumming up your system. You notice that I'm painting right on top of that small O-ring. From here, we can start threading this in here in the bottom. Again, make sure you're in the low position. Just start threading that baby in. Perfect. And we want to tighten this down a little bit. Now from here, we're going to wipe off the excess nail polish. And we'll clean these other threads because we're going to get ready to insert this into the stove. Okay folks, in my hand I have the complete valve assembly with the knob installed. Everything's set. I'm going to just set that thing down. I'm going to take my nail polish, whatever color you choose, pink in my case. I'm just going to paint these threads. Again, you can use Teflon tape, you can use that thread compound, you can use just about anything you want. I just like this because it's cheap and it works good. And you don't really want to skip this step, because if you do, you're going to have issues in reference to if your tank's going to hold good sufficient pressure or not over time. So don't skip this step. Now, before we insert this in, I'm going to put a little dab of oil on this O-ring right here. From here, I'm going to lower this baby right down into the tank. And I'm just going to start threading. Oh, you know what? I put the knob on too soon. Goodness, folks. Let's pull the knob off. We'll come back to that. I should have known better, because disassembly. Now let's thread that baby in. We'll come back with our knob here in a second. Now you got to remember that your knob needs to be in this location. So that means that this stem needs to be 90 degrees of the tank. So we're going to kind of crank it around one more time. 1/2 inch wrench. Something like that. I get the feeling that I could get one more turn on it. So let's try that. Yeah, we're getting tight now. Something like that. See that? So that it'll be 90 degrees of the tank. Just like so. Now let's take our knob and our screw. Again, there's only one way that it goes on. And let's make sure we're on, which we are. Take our screw again. Put some more nail polish on it. Stuff is great. It's kind of like Loctite. Just works good for holding those things together. The last thing you want on the trail is to have your knob fall off or something like that and be trying to turn that little brass thing with your fingers. That wouldn't be very fun, would it? So it doesn't have to be too tight. Okay, again, it's on plastic, so you don't want to be too crazy about it. So everything looks good. So we have our pump installed, we have our valve assembly installed. Now it's time to start installing the rest of the stove. From here, I'm going to take this small aluminum collar. I'm going to just set that baby down right there. From there, I'm going to take this small aluminum heat shield with this hole, this cutout facing the valve here, and it's just going to come right down on top just like that. Now this is all aluminum and it all kind of fits into place. There's not really any specific place that it has to go or anything like that. Now I'm going to take my burner assembly, lay this baby down right on top. Now I have two holes there. I'm going to put it over one of those holes. Okay, this will all make sense here soon. I'm just kind of locking it in to see where it's going to fit. Okay, now we can start to reassemble our generator. So when it comes to the generator, the first thing that I like to do is I like to take my little wire. You see down inside there's that little hole. What I like to do to kind of assist with this is I like to put a drop of oil inside of there. And what that oil will do is it'll make it easier for this wire to run through. So I'm just reaching down in there. And I'm putting it right in that little hole. Let me get you a better view here. See the wire? It ran right down into that hole. Then I'm just going to kind of push the wire into the generator. And if you had a lot of bad fuel in the past, this wire might be hard to go in and out. So you might want to kind of work it in and out. And before you insert this wire in, if you had a lot of dirty fuel or something like that, I would recommend taking that wire and having some steel wool in your hand and pulling that wire through the steel wool. Okay, before we put the wire all the way in, we're going to go ahead and install our jet down here. Now there's two ways. You can put the jet in first, or you can push the wire all the way through and then do the jet. It doesn't matter. If you push the wire through, you'll see the wire there. And then you can kind of put your jet around that. And then thread it. Or vice versa. You could put the jet in first and then push the wire through. It doesn't really matter. From here, I like to grab my needle nose and just pull the wire back just a little bit. About like that. Because when I put this valve into the low portion, that part comes out. And when that part comes out, I can hook it with my wire. You see, watch. See my wire hooked onto it? Then I can put my collar and everything across there. Hopefully you saw that. I'm going to try to get a better angle for you guys. bear with me. Okay, so let's take a look. If I move this nut up, it came undone right now because I moved it, but see this? The wire's hooked in there. Push that flare fitting over, holding everything. Don't worry about that. And just tighten this down. It doesn't need to be tight yet. We want this generator to be just barely on there. Just like so, just enough so we can move it. Okay, let's put this collar back. Put the burner bell back on, or the burner plate. And let's put the burner assembly back on. Just like so. Now we're going to turn the generator around and we're going to feed it inside of this hole. Let me turn this stove and get you a good angle. Okay, so we're going to feed the generator inside of this hole. So we're just going to turn the burner assembly until the generator goes in the hole there. Push it in, and that's where things need to be. From here, we can take our grate, and on the grate you'll notice one portion has a rounded edge. The rounded edge goes over the generator right here. So let me get a little higher for you. So when you go to put the rounded one right around the generator, you're just going to kind of drop it just like so. Whoops, bear with me. That moved because I didn't tighten the generator down. Maybe I should have done that. We'll go ahead and tighten the generator down. Now, where's that round portion? Right there. It's going to fit right like so. Right on top of it. Just like that. Nothing crazy. From here we have our one and only screw that holds the whole stove other than the knob together. I'm just going to run it through my rag and kind of take off whatever that sealant or whatever they had on there. Just going to kind of take that off. So I'm going counterclockwise, just unthreading, and I'm just cleaning those threads, taking that sealant or whatever off. Now, I'm going to find my nail polish. I'm going to paint this screw pretty well down towards the bottom. Don't need to paint the whole thing, you know, like all the way up or anything. Just need the most of it down at the bottom, because as soon as it touches the nut inside, it's going to connect. So now let's put that straight down. And that stem that was built onto the tank, that's what we're going to be screwing into. Clockwise, obviously. Doesn't need to be gorilla tight, you just want to snug it up. And that is the complete assembly, folks. My apology for getting a little crazy there a couple times. But that's the assembly. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill this thing with fuel, and then we'll fire it up and make sure it runs good. Okay, I'm back. I've already filled it up with fuel. I have my lighter handy. My valve is in the off position. Obviously my tank is full of fuel and my cap is nice and tight. I'm going to loosen the pump a little bit. Okay, I loosened it about a turn and a half, and I'm going to give it about 20 pumps. Lock that thing. Now I'm going to come into the high position and light. Back to the low position. I'm going to kill this light behind me, so you can see the flames a little bit better. Right now the stove is priming. In the meantime, I'm going to give it an additional 25 strokes. Okay, let's turn this fuel up a little bit and see what happens. What we need to do is we need to heat this generator up so that we can prime the stove so that it'll start turning that liquid into a gas. So I'm just giving it just enough fuel to heat that generator. I'm going to kill this overhead light. Give you a good view of the flame there. Once you see things fired up well, you could go all the way to max if you want. Turn the stove to hot right there. You can hear everything kind of heating up and things like that. That's normal. We want to double check and make sure that we have good flame control, so we'll just kind of come down nice and slow, and we'll be looking at our flame, seeing how things are working for us. Things look good. Go all the way down to low. You can see that that's a beautiful flame. So again, we're going to go up a little bit closer to high. Nice and slow. You see this stove has excellent flame control. Now let's go ahead and turn it off and see how that feature works. That residual flame that you see, that's the leftover gas that was inside the burner assembly, and it was some leftover stuff that was in the generator. And that's totally normal. Now that the stove is hot, we can go ahead and light it very easily. See how quick that thing lights and how quick it takes a blue flame because the generator is already hot. We don't have to convert liquid to gas anymore because it's already hot. If you get to that high output and it's not enough, turn that baby to low, give it 25-30 more pumps, and you'll really pressurize that tank. I gave it an additional 25. Now let's take a look and see what we get on high. Significant flame. Pretty nice little stove. Well folks, I want to say thanks for watching the video today on my disassembly and my reassembly of the Coleman 550B. This is a great stove, works really good. It's easy to work on, very simple. Works real good. It's a good stove. So if you see one of these, you find a good deal on it, go ahead and snag it. It's a good stove. Anyway, I want to say thanks again. Please feel free to comment, like, share, thumbs up, and if you like the content on my channel, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe. Thanks again. Have a beautiful day. We'll see you next time. Bye.